everyone! It's time for our reading with vocabulary lesson. Our book today is called The Moon. It is by Martha E. H. Rustad, and we talked about this before when we were learning about baby penguins and baby ducklings. It was last week or maybe the week before, but this book also has a consulting editor, and it's somebody who knows a lot about the subject and could help the author make sure that the facts that they are giving are correct, and also give more information if the author maybe doesn't know everything that they want to add to this story. And the consulting editor for this story is Gail Sanders Smith, and Gail was also the consulting editor for the Duckling and the Penguin book that we read. I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago. So Gail Sanders Smith must know a lot about scientific facts and can help out the authors. So before we read our book, our nonfiction book about the moon, let's go over some vocabulary words. Our first two words are the words overhead and visible. Overhead and visible. Overhead means above your head. Overhead. Overhead means above your head. Visible. When something is visible, you can see it. Visible. When something is visible, you can see it. Overhead and visible. Would you please point to the picture that you think shows the word overhead? Okay. Would you please point to the picture that you think shows the word visible? Did you choose this word for the word overhead? Correct. Overhead means above your head. They are pointing to some birds that are overhead or above their head. Okay, did you point to this picture for the word visible? Correct. When something is visible, you can see it. This person is saying, I can see you. They must be playing hide and go seek. This person is visible. They can see it or see this person. Okay, our next two vocabulary words are the words rough and face. Rough and face. Rough means not smooth. Something that is rough is covered with many holes, bumps, or dents. Rough. Rough means not smooth. Something that is rough is covered with many holes, bumps, or dents. Our other vocabulary word is the word face. When you face something, you look toward it. Face. When you face something, you look toward it. Okay, would you please point to the picture that you think shows the word rough? Rough. And would you please point to the picture which you think shows the word face? Face. Did you point to this picture for the word rough? Right. Rough means not smooth. Something that is rough is covered with many holes, bumps, or dents. You can see this tree trunk is not smooth. If you ran your hand over it, it might go back and forth like this and might feel rough under your fingers because there's bumps where the bark is. And did you point to this picture for the word face? Right. When you face something, you look toward it. Face. These players are facing each other. They're looking towards each other. Face. Okay, we are ready to start our book. This nonfiction book is called The Moon. What do you think we're going to be learning about in this book? Right, the moon. Okay, let's see what we can learn about the moon. there's our table of contents that we often see in nonfiction books. It helps us, like we talked about in our last book that had table of contents, we talked about how these have the chapters in the book, and then they tell us the page numbers. So if we wanted to learn about the moon's surface, we would go to page 19 in our book. But we're going to start from the beginning so we can learn as much as we can about the moon. Our first chapter is called A Shining Light. The moon shines high above. It brightens the night sky. That makes me think of a vocabulary word. The word overhead, because the moon shines high above the earth. It is overhead. It's above your head. We'd have to look up to look at the moon. Overhead. It's a very pretty picture of the moon reflecting on the water. So you can see its light hitting the water. So it looks like the moon's casting some light on the water. It's reflecting. The moon is easy to find at night. Sometimes you can see the moon during the day. So sometimes you see it when it's night outside, and sometimes you can look overhead in the daytime and still see the moon too, because it's always overhead. It's just sometimes it's easier to see during the nighttime than it is during the daytime. Oh, and that also makes me think of this word, the word visible. Visible is when something you can see. So sometimes the moon is visible at night, and sometimes it's visible during the day. The moon reflects the sun's light to Earth. The sunlit part of the moon seems to glow. So if you look at this picture, the moon reflects the sun's light to Earth. The sunlit part of the moon seems to glow. So the part that makes the moon so bright in the sky is the sunlight that's reflecting off of it. You can see here in this picture, there's arrows to show the sunlight is reflecting off of the moon and going to Earth. So that's what makes the moon look like it's glowing for us. When we look overhead, the moon is visible. Using all of our vocabulary words. The moon's visible and it seems to glow. Interesting. Sometimes only part of the sunlit side of the moon faces Earth. Our view makes it seem like the moon changes shape. So sometimes the Earth is in front of the moon where the sunlight is making it bounce off only part of the moon. We're only seeing the sunlight bounce off of part of the moon. So if we looked back here, it would be like we were only seeing half of the moon, because sometimes there's the crescent moon, or we might see a half moon, a crescent moon, a quarter moon. Sometimes we see a full moon, but the moon isn't actually changing shape. It's just the sun that's reflecting off of it, and the Earth is casting a shadow on it. Interesting. Oh, our new chapter. What is the moon? The moon is Earth's satellite. It moves around Earth once every 28 days. Wow. The same side of the moon always faces Earth. So we can see in this picture that it's always facing the same side, but it's just slowly going. It has to go really slow if we're thinking about it moves. Well, it goes really quickly, but it seems very slow to us because it takes 28 days for it to travel around the sun. I'm very curious how fast the moon travels. Do you think that it's traveling faster or slower than a car? Do you think the moon travels faster or slower than a car? Right, I'll have to look that up and let you know. I'm very curious to know how fast the moon, I can't remember if I said sun, how fast the moon travels around Earth. Takes 28 days though. Earth spins once each day. The moon looks like it moves from east to west as Earth spins. Oh, so the Earth is the reason why it looks like the sun is traveling over the horizon or over the sky. Because when you look at it in the morning, it's at a different place in the sky than when you look at it at night. But it's not actually the moon that's moving, it's the Earth that's turning and changing where we see the moon in the sky. Let's see. I think, oh, I missed one of our vocabulary words back here. Oh, when we were talking about how the sunlit side of the moon faces the Earth, I forgot to show you our vocabulary word, face. When you look towards something. So the Earth and the moon are facing each other. Okay, then we learned about how the Earth is spinning. The moon is much smaller than Earth. About 50 moons could fit inside the Earth. Wow. 50 moons. They look really small when our moon looks really small when you look up in the sky, but it's actually really big. But that shows you how big our Earth is because the moon is still very small compared to the Earth. Ooh, we can use comparison words. The moon is smaller than Earth. But we could say the opposite. We could say the Earth is bigger than the moon. Right. See, we can use our math vocabulary even when we're reading. Oh, our last chapter, the moon's surface. Craters dot the moon. These holes make the moon's surface rough. Ooh, vocabulary word. Rough means not smooth. Something that is rough is covered with many holes, bumps, or dents. Rough. So craters are the big holes in the moon. These big holes that make the moon's surface look rough, not smooth. If you look through a telescope, which is a very long magnifying glass, we've seen our hand lenses, we can look at things up close, but a telescope is a very long hand lens, just a lot bigger, so we can see the moon up close. That's how somebody was able to take a picture like this. Raise your hand if you've seen a telescope before, maybe on TV or in real life. Yeah, some people have. Raise your hand if you haven't seen one or don't think you've seen one before. Right, I hadn't seen one until I was in college for the very first time in person. I'd seen some of them in movies, but the first time that I saw one in person wasn't until I was in college. I would love to have a telescope in my house one day so I could see the planets up close and the stars. That'd be really cool. The moon is not like Earth. Gray dust and rocks cover the moon. The sky is always black. Interesting. So if the sky is always black and there's just gray dust everywhere, do you think plants could grow on this planet or on this moon, or do you think plants could not grow on this moon? No, they'd have a hard time because they need water, they need nutrients. This soil could not give them the nutrients they need, and they're not getting as much light as they need from this dark sky. That's why Earth is a very good place to grow plants, because we have lots of light and lots of nutrients in our soils. Oh, that's the end of our book. And the last page is our glossary, which we've talked about before, is our vocabulary words that we see in our book, as well as the definitions for those vocabulary words. And then there's also some more resources that we can look for. There's more books about the moon that this author thinks are helpful. And there's some internet sites or places that you can Google online on your computer to find out more about the moon. So go ahead and do that if you'd like to learn a little bit more about the moon. I bet there's some really cool YouTube videos that you could watch too that would help you understand how the moon circles around the Earth and how the Earth circles inside of the moon's circle. There's lots of geometry shapes happening with the moon and the sun their orbits. Okay, thanks for listening, everyone. I'll see you later. Bye.